Hey, everybody. Welcome back again to an episode of Automation Nation Inside Barnum. Today's a product spotlight episode. We're going to be talking some SMC and specifically a really cool unit from the EX600 platform that everyone at Barnum's pretty excited about. A lot of customers are excited about. And today with me, I have Mark Arnold, one of our SMC product managers here with Barnum. Thank you for joining me, Mark. If you want to give me a quick little, well, not even me, everyone who's listening, a quick little intro about yourself. Who are you? How long you been with Barnum? What do you do for us? And then we'll just dive on in.
All right, thank you, Cody. So I've been with Barnum since March of 25, so relatively short time with Barnum, but really having a great time so far. I've spent over 30 years in automation, and quite a bit of that time was at SMC myself, and really got intimate with the products there and the knowledge as a product manager. And this product today is something I'm really excited to talk about.
Good deal. So you're part of our product manager group for SMC. We've had a couple of the other guys on the podcast in the past, and your whole group is Jason, Roger, yourself, and Michael. You guys are pretty much solely responsible for being the knowledge base on SMC. Is there really anything else you get involved in besides SMC, or is it really you are laser focused on the SMC product?
That's probably 90% of what I do. I have a couple other smaller product lines, but SMC is just huge for Barnum, and it's really my wheelhouse. Obviously, but coming from such a long time at SMC.
And then you're down in the Nashville area, right?
Yes, I'm based in the Tennessee area, and I mostly cover the southeast for Barnum, but I do help out wherever needed. So whether it be Ohio, Michigan, or any other territory.
Cool, cool. Well, let's get in and talk about what we have sitting here on the table. This from SMC, like I said, is part of the EX600 platform. And for people just listening, we have a few demos on the table showing a few things. And this one in front of us is the new CIP Safety module. It's a new Ethernet bus head. It's a field bus module with I/O. So we have inputs and outputs on here and can control some valves. So on this unit itself, obviously the EX600 platform is something that's really configurable. People can kind of do whatever they want with it. But the main part, I guess, is our safety side. Really, what is that? What's new about this? Well, why is it so exciting for us?
Well, we've had, of course, Ethernet IP for a long time with the EX600 platform, being able to control standard I/O and control the valves. But what's unique is the SIP safe is safety over Ethernet. So
Mm-hmm.
this is a protocol that allows us to very much simplify our organizational structure of our layout. We're able to reduce significantly a number of components. We're able to reduce cables, the devices, components in the cabinet or outside the cabinet, and really just simplify it tremendously because you're having the safety on board the device here. Not only the safety outputs to control the valve manifold, but also other safety outputs. And really unique to this is also the safety inputs to be able to bring in safety devices.
Yeah, because it seems like I feel like that's something that's been a conversation tenfold over in the last year or so. Other brands that we rep are have SIP safety, whether it's just IO blocks or it's VFDs or whatnot. And then when it finally comes down to our valve technology, that kind of was a not really an option. It was you had to do safety another way. You had
Right.
to add it on in some type of other scenario. But that EX600 platform having field bus Ethernet already on there, I feel like it was a long time coming.
I will agree with that. It's something that is a product I've been aware of the need for a long time,
Hmm.
and I'll be honest, when this finally was released this year, I was super excited because I know there is a great demand out there from our customers to really, again, simplify their layouts and their architecture. And I think this is going to be a great platform because you have the flexibility with standard I/O, safety I/O, and the valves
Hmm.
all in one. And really, again, having a modularity, but also some really consolidation of some devices.
Yeah, consolidating seems to be a big thing with that because we talk about taking stuff out of the cabinet, distributing I/O, centralizing, decentralizing certain things, but this really is kind of a cool marriage of decentralization and centralization because you're bringing stuff out of the panel, but then you also have one Ethernet cable in that's now controlling valves, controlling safety, potentially controlling IO-Link devices, inputs, outputs, all kinds of stuff, all on just one unit, one Ethernet cable, one IP address. Like I said, just really simplifying, consolidating.
I think that's huge because as a lot of us in the automation world and the control side understand that, hey, having multiple IP addresses, for each device starts consuming, the capacity of it. The PLC starts consuming IP addresses for even the line or the network that they have. So the reduction in IP addresses to me is one huge factor in this, in that simplification. And you're right, it's kind of a hybrid of decentralization and centralization both, because we're not centralizing in the cabinet, we're centralizing outside the cabinet. So this could be on machine. All of this is IP67.
Yep.
So,
this used to be big terminal racks inside next to your PLC.
Right,
and it was
right.
expensive and annoying to work with.
Right now, so all we have to do is run, the one power cable out and one Ethernet connection out, versus a lot of punch outs or holes in our cabinet to run different relays or any other devices. Now everything's out there. The shorter runs with the cables, and again, this more or less standard cables as well.
Sure. So for this, the EX600 platform alone has been out for a while already, kind of consolidating some of that I/O over fieldbus, but the safety side of it is the new components. So what are the two big components that really make that happen, the new ones here? I know the fieldbus module has changed, so that's a new component. And then the safety module, is there only one of them, two of them, different flavors, different I/O counts, things like that on them?
Yes. So to answer the question a little bit, there are two Ethernet interfaces. One is for our standard bus platform that allows up to 32 solenoids, and then that's for our standard SY series valves, the BQC, and the standard JSY series. But with the newer JSY-L series, or the platforms that allow us to have up to 128 solenoids, it's a larger bus and backplane, so there is a new field bus interface for that. And also there is the one for our manifold mounted ITVs, which are our electronic pressure regulators.
Okay.
So the two flavors again of the field bus interface, one is more the traditional, and one is for the very large expansion style that we have for the ITVs or ITVs and the 128 solenoids. On the safety module itself, as a separate device, there is just one flavor of that. It's going to have three output zones. One is for the valves themselves, and there are two more that have external connections for external outputs through a M12. The additional feature of the safety I/O module is 16 safety inputs. So there's 8 connections with 2 points per connection. So this allows it to bring in a lot of other safety devices.
So then that, with it being 16 on 8 ports, so that means someone can do single channel or they can do dual channel safety on there. And I assume it's a configurable port. It's not, you have to do one or the other.
Right. So
Configurable.
there's different configurations on the safety inputs, depending on the safety that you're doing.
Yep.
Whether it be just a simple e-stop or a light curtain.
Yep.
There's 3 different configurations actually for each of the safety inputs.
So I think, just for reference for anyone listening, the field bus module, we call it the EX600 BEN1. That is the new Ethernet IP module. And then we have the safety side, which is the EX600 FVC. And then there's the 1 and the 2. So the 1 would be our standard with like the SY, BQC, JSY, kind of have everything under that. And then the 2, I think, is the version that expands out with the JSYs and the ITVs that you can get all that extra on. And it looks astronomically comical if you were to maximize that because of how big this can get. Probably.
Yeah, I've seen somebody assemble the manifolds, I mean, literally 6 feet long, but it allows for a lot of panel builders or somebody who's doing a lot of maybe process control or something like that to have it all centralized and, again, one IP address and have high density to that.
Yeah, and it's out of the panel. I mean, terminal wiring's gone for that. I mean, that's huge alone for someone that's got that much IO, that much valves, that much. If you were doing all standard valves on that with individual connections, discrete connections for every valve, it would be tedious and obnoxious.
Yeah, it would be. And, I've been an advocate for, as SMC calls it, their serial interface, just the simplified wiring systems, have the one communication connector versus landing terminals on each wire. It's just, the hardware is, slightly more expensive, but the way I state it is not only saving direct labor costs, just having the guy plug in the one M12 connector,
Yep.
it's also the time value of the machine. So think about it this way: as a principal of a company, instead of building 10 machines a year, maybe I can build 12, just because I have simplified the installation time and I get more machines out the door. So to me, that's even a cash flow advantage for the principal of the owner.
That's a good way to put it. Not a lot of people touch on that portion of when we always say simplifying wiring and build time, things like that. Straight up could potentially help you build more machines in a year.
Right.
Not just everyone always talks about it saved us some time where it's easier maintenance. Yes, those are huge topics on it. But yeah, you could literally fill your schedule better
Right.
because of that time and money savings. I guess on this module itself, the one that we have here on the table, people listening, this one I'm pretty sure is the FVC1. Even though because these are SY valves on here, right?
Yes.
Because the other one we need the JSYs. We have, there's 3 outputs on this, and it looks like we got Z1, Z2, Z3 on here. They got indicator lights. Z2, Z3 are physical ports, and Z1 does not have a port. So Z1 handles outputs for the valves, correct?
So yes, it considers the valves, the whole solenoids, whether it's 32 or the 128, as one zone. So that's has that redundancy with the 2 contacts to be able to remove power from both legs of the power supply. But
Sure.
that's for the entire valve bank itself. So there's no electrical zoning of the valve bank to individual control the valves.
Mm-hmm.
However, we can take one of those external outputs and run it to some special SY series valves that would drop power to that external valve, and then that would remove power to the external pilot pressure. So we can actually zone the manifold with those 2 external outputs by dropping power and zoning the pilot pressure onto the manifold. So we still
Sure.
can zone the manifold. It's a little bit of an external way to do it, but in some ways it's a little bit safer because we're removing that air pressure to those pilots. So
Yep.
just one more bit of redundancy to it.
Sure. So we see it built in that it's one zone. That doesn't mean the entire thing has to be behind that zone. You can find a way to configure it because we have the other outputs on there. Obviously, if we're using those safety outputs for other things, we can't multi-zone it. But that's just something you'd configure anyway when you're first starting this, or
Right.
figure the best way to use those outputs. There any devices, certain valves or anything too, that would have any monitoring that would come back that we could use on the input side?
Yeah, so some of these safety zoning valves, we actually have also an external feedback, whether it's pull detection of the valve position. So we could take that feedback and bring it back to either a standard IO or safety IO. Because it's a diagnostic, typically we can bring it back to standard IO if we like. It doesn't have to be on a safety input. But with that, we can get up to like a category 2 in the SIL category with that, because we have the single channel and one diagnostic monitoring port.
Sure. We got a couple other things on the table here to kind of just show off too. For people listening, we got an IO block, and then we have another module here. We actually had a podcast directly on this one a while back, the SMC VPX. That's the safety dump valve. With having those outputs on the EX600, that kind of goes hand in hand with that VPX, correct?
Yeah, so we can actually utilize one of those external safety outputs on the EX600 SIP safe and run that output over to the VPX module. And this will be like your main supply to the machine after your filtration. And so I can control this and remove that input to it, or basically the output to that, remove power, and it dumps residual pressure in the machine. And this is another device that gets you, up to a category 3 in this case, because we have on the control side, if you rent it direct from PLC, we can have up to a category 4 safety with it. But this gives you PLD, so removing all energy out of the system by removing the air on the main supply. One precaution about this whole system, everything when we talk about safety is a component of a system. So,
Hmm.
always remind people and especially on our sales teams, but sometimes customers as well, that these are components of a safety system, that this machine is not automatically safe if you put one of these devices on. You got to implement it correctly with all the other components of a system. For example, on this, if I have my valves on the valve bank, and even if I remove power, it doesn't necessarily mean they're in a safe state. So we
Sure.
have to choose for each individual actuator what is the safe state for that actuator. So we have to choose the right valve for the system. So, we're talking about, again, systems and not components of that.
Yep.
And as a component supplier, we're not going to tell a customer that, hey, your machine's going to be safe if you buy
Yeah,
this
just
component.
drop this in. Everyone's safe. No one's ever gonna get hurt or
Right.
lose a
So
finger.
it's just a reminder to everyone, and I know our listeners really have a good grasp on this, but hey, you have to take a holistic approach to this on your machine. So
Yes.
these are components that help you get to a safe level, but you have to implement them correctly, and everything else tied to them has to be implemented correctly. So the risk assessment, that's a customer's responsibility to choose, the safety level that they need,
Hmm.
and these are just components that get them a ability to have that safety level.
Yep, for sure. That's another good, valid point. And if anybody ever wants to just deep dive into that safety, a few episodes ago, we actually did an episode for Safety Month, Industrial Safety Month, with one of our other product managers, Derek, who handles a lot of our safety stuff, and just went over kind of general Barnum safety components and how customers can get to those type of safety ratings using our components, but again, at that level of making sure it's your system, not just the components. So if anybody ever wants to watch back another episode on some safety stuff, if safety's your forte, got a whole nother good hours worth of content probably on safety stuff for you.
Yes.
But safety is, like you said, it is a hot topic, and everyone's always asking for it, especially safety over Ethernet, and that's where this really shines, which is really cool. But
Yeah.
when we talk about SIP, when we talk about safety over Ethernet too, is there plans on this? Do you know at all if they're probably going to do ProfiSafe or maybe EtherCAT on this stuff too? Because those are always big
Yeah.
buzzwords too for safety.
So SMC does have products out there that can handle both of those protocols already. There's a little bit of an older platform, the EX245, that SMC introduced some years ago with a ProfiSafe interface. It does have modular I/O as well. So it's something that, a lot of times we see safety driven from the European market first.
Sure.
And so the ProfiSafe platform was actually developed a while back based on customer demand. So there is the EX245 platform that has the modular I/O and has safety I/O on it as well. It also has, through SMC, offer a EX260 platform where it's output only just to drive valves in the ProfiSafe, and they're releasing a same platform, the EX260, with the functional safety over EtherCAT.
Yep.
So those two platforms are already in existence, the ProfiSafe and EtherCAT on safety. But the EX600 platform, the U.S. market is Ethernet IP dominated, so
Hmm.
this is something we really needed here. Probably about 80% market share on the Ethernet IP.
Yeah, for sure.
So it was driven first, but I think SMC, as a course of things, will modernize what their offering is too. And my belief is I'm not in the know anymore for sure, but
Yeah.
an EtherCAT and a Profinet version of this platform will be available down the road.
Yeah, I don't see why not. I mean,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, physically stuff is the same. It's just protocol and getting certifications, things like
Right.
that. And obviously, when it comes to safety certifications, everyone knows that's always a bear.
Yes.
It takes a long time to make sure everything is perfect before someone lets it become a mass-produced item.
And these products have been certified through TUV out of Germany. So, we've had the appropriate certifications, done at SMC. And I keep saying we because it's a bad habit of mine from being an SMC salon, but as an SMC offering, I feel closely tied to it. But with that, we also want to listen to our customers, and customer demand drives development.
Mhm.
And the more customers we get feeding back to us that we can feed back to our vendors, such as SMC, will drive development. And so as a product manager, not only my job is to support the product, but also to relay customer needs back to the manufacturer. So if there's customers out there that say, hey, if you had this, we would buy X amount. Those are always great things, that to let us know, and we can share that with the manufacturers and really help push that development for our customers.
Well, that's something that touches base on every single episode we ever have had of this podcast, where I mention the value added that H Barnum brings. The value added of your role as a product manager is more than we're just gonna get you these parts and walk away. We're actually gonna listen to your concerns or questions or suggestions and relay them like that, because we like to do more than just stock crap on our shelves and
Hmm.
collect checks.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That's what, one of the things that brought me to Barnum was just the level of support that they bring to the customers. I was excited, working with Barnum over the years at SMC and just seeing what again, the value they added. They were the greatest, for me to work with on that level. It's just, if the Barnum guys had a question, it's going to be a tougher question. They've already figured out most of it on their own. And in that vein, along those lines, with this product, there's some unique configuration things that are done for safety.
Yep.
And part of the value add that Barnum does with our applications engineering group. And one of the things they've done is looked at this product and figured out what some of the pain points might be for customers in implementation. And I know our apps group has developed a custom AOI, for the configuration of safety. So things like that we can do to help our customers on the integration side. We're not integrators, but we want to help our customers integrate the products that we sell. So, they have an AV PLC and they want to implement this. We've already done that, and we have some
Yeah.
experience with it. So we're not just going to throw the product over to you and say, here, figure it out, or call the manufacturer. That's something that H Barnum prides itself in, is, hey, being a true support resource on the technical side.
Yep. We prefer our customers reach out to us first instead of going directly to the supplier, because we have a lot more of the boots on the field knowledge or recent application issues or successes that we can work with you and figure it out prior to maybe just going to a general tech support queue at the supplier. So that's where we really pride ourselves in helping the customer. And that was something I wanted to kind of segue into next, was talking about possibly configuration or initial setup on this. And really that's as easy as it is. I mean, initial setup is, you're most likely going to get this pre-configured from Barnum. We like to do our nice HHB assemblies.
Mhm.
This is all going to be plug and play for you. Plug in power, plug in Ethernet. And now it's, talk to the applications engineers. What's next? And that's the programming side. SMC has EDS files already for this. Bring it into your Allen Bradley PLC or other Ethernet IP PLC. And then obviously AOIs that we have that help organize the data and just make it a little bit more friendly to use. We have a few guys that, even as we make an AOI, maybe they're going to make a version 2, version 3 based on customer feedback, because someone maybe who works with these that's even more knowledgeable than our apps guys, which is pretty rare, says, I found a better way to do it. And they'll send us some cool code, and we'll work that into our AOI and get that working. So that's always dynamic as well. So when you buy a product like this from us, there's not one clean cut way to do it, but we're going to help you get to a stage that makes it easy. And then I guess on that side too, once it's up and running, once it's communicating to your PLC, I mean, is there really ever anything else that really is special about these? I don't think so. It seems, from what I've played with them a little bit, and you played with them a little bit, this seems really cut and dry, straightforward product, especially on the deployment side. I mean, I didn't run into anything that's this big glaring better, asterisk this because you're going to forget it later. And
Right. I think, the thing that the modularity is great on this to be able to do digital IO and do actually IO link master blocks with this too. So, having that on the standard IO side of things, just having
yeah,
that, being able to configure those in a modular fashion up to 9 modules gives a lot of flexibility. I think the other new feature that I really like on this platform compared to some of the traditional SMC EX devices is now there is a screen on the
that's a
Ethernet
good point.
module. I
I
think one of
like
the
that screen.
the biggest challenge, I'll be honest, when I was at SMC with our EX products was setting the IP address,
Yep.
other than using
We
the
get that
rotary dial.
question all the
That
time.
was honestly the number one tech support question I got, because people struggle with, tech support on the configuration of the IP address using the older software such as Rockwell Boot P. And SMC created their own software, but again, just when you start dealing with different versions of Windows and things like that, it became a challenge for a long time using software to configure it. So
Yep.
with this one, there is just a little LED interface in there with a screen that you can dial in the IP address right on the screen. And I think that's very important to a lot of customers too, that if something ever happened to the module, a robot crash or something literally just broke the module, for the maintenance guy to go in and replace it, they didn't have to open up a laptop, plug in cables.
Yeah.
This one, you power it up, you can just dial in the IP address as a record, and it's it's ready to go in and as a replacement.
And just the visual right on the front of the screen too. If a new controls guy or someone walks by and doesn't know what the IP address of it is, it's front and center on a little LED screen right there. I mean that's really nice. Now that module too, that BEN1, that isn't specifically only for safety. That can be used if you were just configuring a standard EX600, right?
And I believe
I
so.
think
I mean,
that's just the field bus module that, hey, if you had the older version without the screen and you just want to start ordering everything now with the screen, that's fine. Even if you're not using safety, if you just have valves or an iLink master or whatever else, that's the field bus module. And that,
yeah, it is still a field bus module as long as you know that the diagnostic parts and the safety part of it is something that, you just leave out.
yeah.
Set up your mapping to adjust for that. So
Now I noticed too, just to touch on the EX600 a little bit in general, the one we have here on our table is a demo. Safety's all on one side and valves are all on one side, and then it seems like iLink and other inputs and outputs are on the other side of the field bus module, and that's on purpose, right? It does. The field bus module kind of separates things that are like valve based, and everything's always on one side. Always, it's how it is. It's always on one side, and then all your other add-ons always are on the other side, the field bus module, because the configuration like we have on the table has 3 add-on modules. We got an IO link, an input, and output. Even after this is configured, I can take that end plate off and squeeze another one on there,
right.
without changing my valve and safety setup.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, I'll be completely honest, I haven't looked at the mapping on this, but it used to be when you added an output module, you had to shift the addressing down. And I would guess that they've set this up now, the mapping can be flip-flopped where you don't have to do that. The new output module can be added on to the end of that instead of having to
Sure.
shift everything down.
I think you can. I think I remember seeing that
Yeah,
as
because
well.
I know that when we came out with the wireless at SMC, the wireless version of the EX600, you were able to flip the direction of the mapping, so that made it much easier to add additional modules. You just put that downstream in your mapping instead of having to go in and shift everything down.
So I know that's a question people get too, and there's safety involved. Can I actually add something on after the fact, or is it a completely new thing? I got to factory reset everything, re-register to my safety PLC, all that. This platform allows that expansion for non-safe items, which is really cool.
Definitely.
Anything else you can think of on this? I mean, we've covered a lot on this side. There's not a lot to talk about on it, but there also is a lot to talk about on it because it's an exciting product. But it is, like I said, it's straightforward, and that's the nice part about it.
I mean, for me, again, I get excited about some products more so than others, and in my the last 20 years of my career, this is probably one of my top 3 products that I've seen released to get excited about. So I know that there's just some pent up demand out there in the market for it.
Hmm.
And again, I'm excited to be able to take that out to customers and show them in person, some of the benefits of this product. And, we will have several demos within the Barnum community that we'll be able to take up to our different regions. So,
Yep.
if you get an opportunity, let your local rep know, and then we could set up a time to go out and bring us in and demo it for you.
Yeah, and that's a big point. If you can, get a Barnum rep involved, one of us, one of the apps guys, one of the product managers, even just the salesman, obviously the salesman, but because we have that extra, you know, add-on instructions, other programming knowledge, things like that that we can bring to the table um, to the discussion instead of just going directly through an SMC rep who, yes, is going to know the product, who's going to be able to show you the product, but we might have the ability to get you a little bit more demo in your hand, play around with it a little bit more. So obviously, first try, get your Barnum rep involved, and then reach out to your SMC rep, because obviously there's SMC reps globally.
Yes.
Barnum is not global. So, if you're watching this somewhere else where Barnum is nowhere around, get a hold of your SMC rep to get one of these, take a look at them, or at least just get some information on them. But it's
Yeah.
a cool product.
Yeah, I guess one more thing I'll state too is, with Barnum, we have a full range of automation products and, beyond SMC. So when we start talking about safety, we have quite a few safety related products on some of our other lines.
Yeah, we
You
can
know,
bring the whole system like you were talking about
Right.
instead of just the
That
components.
that way we can show you, hey, this is what happens when you hit a banner e-stop. This is how that's configured into it. Or
Yeah.
we have a little simple light curtain. This is how this is connected. This is how this is set up and programmed. And so we can do that. Or, there's an IO Link device that we can plug into. We can show you how that's configured even on the standard IO. So
Hmm.
one of the things that, we look at ourselves as we can show you how to integrate pretty much anything because we either have that product line or we've connected to that product in the past with one of our product lines. So we provide that full package support that, single manufacturer, they're going to be really knowledgeable on their product, but they may not have the broad width of knowledge to be able to integrate, with this other third-party device that we may have the experience with that we either offer or have related to. So I think that's something else that we bring to the table that the manufacturer doesn't necessarily have the ability to do.
For sure. Yeah, that is a big thing for sure. And even if it is something that Barnum doesn't have, or you are spec to use someone else's thing, Barnum doesn't stop at that. I mean, how many PLCs or other devices have we purchased from a competitor just so we can learn how it programs with one of our devices to help you out, to get you up and running, or show you how it works. So maybe in the future you will move to our product versus
That's right.
so and so's.
So, I mean, it's a long-term, strategy that, I've always felt that, hey, if we don't have the solution, but, we're going to help you now, and then hopefully you'll, in the future, we'll have more for you.
Mm-hmm. Well, good deal. That is a good overview of this product. That EX600 against the BEN1 is the new fieldbus module. FVC1 and FVC2 is the safety module on the EX600 platform. Touched on the VPX a little bit as a little refresher. But overall, again, like we said, if you want more information on it, you guys know who to reach out to. Barnum and SMC. Take a look at these. Lots of documentation online, and in the description of this podcast, there'll be a link to SMC's website and Barnum's website that has some information on these as well. So, Mark, thank you for joining me on this.
Thank you for having me, Cody.
This was good. I think we got a lot out of it, and have a safe trip back south.
Appreciate it.
And then I guess have a good Thanksgiving if anyone's watching this prior to the holiday as well. So we'll catch you guys next time on another episode of Automation Nation inside Barnum. I'm Cody, and we have Mark.